Burnout is not a character flaw. It's a personal and a professional hazard, though, and it's prone to wreaking havoc in high-stakes environments. And that's what we're talking about today with Dr. Leigh Vinocur, an emergency physician. And Dr. Leigh, you have a new book out called Never Let Them See You Sweat: How Science Can Help Us Harness Stress for Success. Welcome. Good to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me here. Appreciate it.
Dr. Vinocur, it's great to see you. I think before we get into burnout, I think the question on everybody's collective mind is processing very graphic violence, obviously with Charlie Kirk this week, but also last week with watching this viral video of this woman basically murdered on a public transit. My own son came up to me having watched one of these videos. He's 12, and I didn't really know what to do. I kind of asked him how he was feeling. I gave him a hug. But how should people be processing this as it relates to the accumulative stress that they're dealing with?
It does. We all have personal stresses in our lives, and then it doesn't help with everything that's going on in this country and around us in the world, wars and violence, and it's very hard. And for children, you need to process it in a way that they can understand, but you also need to be able to make them feel safe. And if it's really an issue, I recommend that people talk to have their children and talk to a counselor to really deal with it. But the way we process other stresses, as I discuss in my book, are just, it's this cumulative chronic stress that we're assaulted with. And it creates that fight or flight, and your stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline, just go up. So you need to take a beat, step back. And in my book, I describe many different ways that you can try and manage your stress before it becomes burnout. Because it isn't all in your head, it's in your body too.
Right, so there's quite a bit of burning before the flame actually goes out and you feel that burnout, you declare burnout. So there are actually red flags along the way, which you also talk about, and I'd love for you to highlight some of those signs that people can watch out for to just keep track of themselves when oftentimes you just adapt. If you're in a stressful environment or a high stakes environment, you might just keep going, and that's part of the issue. So what are some signs that people can watch for?
Yeah, you shouldn't push through because this is a signal from your body that something is going wrong. And, waking up and feeling exhausted, never getting a good night's sleep because your mind is racing at night. You might feel heart palpitations. You might get stomach upset. Check your blood pressure. Your blood pressure may be going up. And these are the physical signs that go along with the mental fatigue of stress. So if you're starting to notice this, you need to step back and you need to take a beat. And I talk about in the book, even ER doctors, we work in a high stress environment, stepping away for a minute, when you can. Breathing is really good to sort of reset that hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis that's pushing out those hormones. There's something called box breathing, where you inhale for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, hold it again. And that kind of resets everything. If you can get outside for a minute, get into nature, even just, the Japanese call it forest bathing. Exercise is great, but even if you can't exercise, just getting out in the sunshine, getting out where there's greenery somewhere, which sometimes isn't easy in a city, but that's an important way to do. And then practicing mindfulness.
I love all those tips around taking a beat, the box breathing, getting out into nature. What about sleep? Some of this is self-inflicted because people stay up, they watch, they binge watch programs or they doom scroll. But some of it's not self-inflicted, and they actually struggle to get to sleep. So how can you get better sleep, and how does that affect the stressors on the body?
Well, it does. Lack of sleep raises those cortisol levels, raises the adrenaline. So everybody talks about sleep hygiene, and that means putting away the screens for an hour before you sleep, trying to read, keeping the room very dark. You know, if you can't get it completely dark, believe it or not, a sleep mask can help. Keeping the room cool. You sleep better when it's cooler, between 67 to 65 degrees. So all that sleep hygiene. But if your mind is racing and you're always thinking about what you have to do the next day, I tell people to make a list. Write down everything you want to do the next day. It's on paper. It's sort of like journaling. Journaling can help with stress, talking about the problems from the day before, but get everything down on paper. And then it sort of is out of your mind, and then practice sleep hygiene and try and get to sleep.
So good. So many of these tips are so practical, and I feel like it reflects what you say, turning compassion inward when you may experience compassion for fatigue, say, not just within the helping professions, but all of us out there are helping somebody in our lives, and turning that towards ourselves can be a real healing balm too, even with something as straightforward and important as self-reflection, journaling, as you're saying, or just taking a moment outside to be with nature. Thank you so much for your time today. It sounds like an excellent book. Dr. Leigh Vinocur, good to speak with you.
Thank you for having me.